now my question to you is, can you tell me, when is money spent expense and when is it an asset? Now, this gives me some very, very interesting answers. And it also tells you, you take certain words for granted, but when you start discussing them, you realize the meanings are far deeper than what you thought. Typical answers would be, money that you spend to run the organization is an expense. And the answer has to be, you're not supposed to spend any money which is not meant to run the business. Expenses are necessary to run the business. Assets are also necessary to run the business. Some people say expenses are recurring, assets are non-recurring, which means those items which are spent on a recurring basis like salary is an expense, and buildings, etc. would be bought once in a while. But then you have to point out, even if companies do not pay salary on a recurring basis, due to recession, due to cash crunch, some companies may be paying salaries erratically. It would still be an expense. On the other hand, what if somebody has a tendency to purchase a new car every month on a recurring basis? Just because it is happening on a recurring basis will not make a car as an expense. Just because salary is not paid regularly will not make it an asset. Let me reduce your options to 4. Do you think money spent is expense or asset? And that depends upon, number 1, the item itself. Or number 2, do you think it depends upon the value? Or do you think it depends upon the life? Or do you think it depends upon the nature of business? Now let me give you examples. I have paid salary. Expense or asset? Seems to be an expense. I have bought raw materials. Expense. I have spent money on traveling. Expense. I bought stationery. Expense. I have paid interest to the bank. Expense. I bought a building. Asset. I bought a car. Asset. I bought a computer. Asset. I bought some furniture. Asset. Now what you've done is, the moment you heard the item, you gave me the answer. Do you think it is the item that decides whether money spent is expense or asset? Or perhaps it's not the item. Maybe it's the value. Subconsciously, maybe you took into account the value. When I said stationery, you said expense. Why? Because you perceived the amount to be pretty small. And when I said building, you immediately said it's an asset because you thought much larger amounts are being spent. Did you call something an expense when the value was small? And did you call it an asset when you thought the value was large? Or on the other hand, maybe it is the life. When I said salary, you said expense. Why? Because you perceived the life to be for 30 days. And when I said building, you immediately said it's an asset because you thought this is going to last you for a long, long time. Or folks, maybe it is neither of these 3. It is the nature of business. You buy a car, where would you show it? You'd show it on the asset side in all likelihood. But I've got a car dealership. I buy and sell cars as a matter of living. Where would I show cars purchased? Just as a manufacturer shows raw materials purchased as an expense, similarly a trader would show cars purchased as an expense, cars sold as an income, and the difference would be the profit. Folks, real estate traders will show buildings purchased as an expense. Now, what decided whether a car or a building is expense or an asset? The nature of business. Now, can you choose 1 out of 4?